From claiming LIV Golf now has better golfers than the PGA Tour, to dropping hints about a new major route for breakaway league players, Bryson DeChambeau has just dropped a massive LIV Golf bomb. Now, there's been a ton of back and forth between the PGA Tour and the Saudi-funded league, with those on the tour's side arguing that not only is LIV an inferior league, but they also don't deserve official world golf ranking points because of their shorter format. But according to DeChambeau, if there's one thing we've learned during the first two majors of 2023, it's that LIV Golf absolutely destroys the PGA Tour in terms of its field strength. Yup, speaking with the press at Oak Hill, the scientist said that the performances we've seen from Saudi League members at the Masters and PGA Championship validate everything we've been saying since the beginning. You know, the fact that they're competing at the highest level and have the ability to win major championships, despite some people calling them washed up and whatnot. For context, two LIV members, Phil Mickelson and Brooks Koepka, finished second at the 2023 Masters. And, of course, Koepka won the 2023 PGA Championship. In fact, there were 3 LIV members in the top 10 at Oak Hill, including Cameron Smith and DeChambeau himself, proving that these guys did not lose their mojo after leaving the PGA Tour. What's more, Bryson also mentioned how he hopes that people can see the light now, and accept that LIV Golf is indeed bringing something new and fresh to the game of golf. I mean, again, he's not wrong, is he? We've seen how even the PGA Tour is adapting some of its events to be like the Saudi League without any cuts and with higher prize purses. So Greg Norman's strategy is clearly working. Oh, and get this, DeChambeau made these comments after Brooks Koepka won the PGA Championship. And if you don't know why that's a big deal, well, let's just say that Koepka and DeChambeau didn't exactly look eye to eye before joining LIV Golf. So the fact that the league has turned these bitter rivals into friends proves the camaraderie between all the members. That being said, this is not the first time DeChambeau has put the PGA Tour on blast. In fact, if anything, this has been a common theme for quite some time. For instance, even back when the tour initially announced that they'd be suspending LIV players, DeChambeau opened up about how it was a stupid decision and how they'd have to reverse it. Not to mention, he's also been one of the biggest supporters of his league, saying that people should be open-minded and give it a chance. After all, if you get past all the controversial stuff and actually look at what they're doing, the product itself is super unique. Besides, even if you're not on board with the idea of a Saudi-funded league, you should still let it exist purely because competition is good for the game. And again, he's not wrong about that at all. I mean, I've already mentioned how the tour was forced to make changes to its schedule and structure to compete with LIV Golf. Plus, despite all the hurdles they faced, the upstart circuit is still showing significant progress, with its sold-out event in Australia being the perfect example of how good it can be. That being said, there's also a ton of debate over the fact that the team events like the Ryder Cup aren't including LIV members. And well, Bryson's mad about that too, saying that the team events like the President's Cup are only hurting themselves by not allowing them to play. Because obviously, that only reduces the strength of teams on both sides. However, in spite of the rivalry between the PGA Tour and LIV Golf, DeChambeau still wants these two sides to come together and find a solution. After all, even though competition is good and this back and forth has produced some good things, the fact of the matter is that this divide is still ultimately tearing the sport apart. And there's just so much negativity everywhere that it's hard to celebrate even the best moments in the sport. I mean, Koepka's win was the perfect example of that, because even though everyone should have been celebrating his 5th major since it's an incredible achievement, the focus was on the fact that he's a LIV Golf player. Of course, there's nothing wrong with people praising the league for once and actually seeing the benefits it has, but it still takes away from that magical moment. So according to Bryson, both the PGA Tour and LIV Golf will have to eventually come together, because for him, peace between these two is good for the game. What's more, he also said that he's a golf fan, first and foremost, so whether he's included in some events or not, he's gonna tune in to watch some of the best players competing against each other regardless. But of course, he hopes that this divide can be sorted out at some point in the future, because he believes that golf will enter a golden phase when that happens, and we'll see something really special. You know why he's right though? Well, it's because he knows exactly what he's talking about. Seriously, he's one of the most decorated players in the sport right now. In fact, the reason people call him the scientist is because he's got a super unconventional approach to the game. And his big "Hello World" moment came when he won both the NCAA Individual Championship and the US Amateur in 2015. For reference, only 4 other players have done this in the history of the sport. Now, obviously he's always been there or thereabouts in terms of competing at the top level, winning 8 PGA Tour events plus a US Open win in 2020. But even though that's impressive in and of itself, the past few years have been really good for DeChambeau. Why? Well, because after COVID, he gained 20 pounds and totally changed his entire physique. As a matter of fact, he also switched up his technique and extended his drive by dozens of yards, which is wild for someone his age. Of course, there's been plenty of allegations about him taking steroids, but all he cares about is winning, and he's doing exactly that right now. Like, it wouldn't be wrong to say that he's easily in the top 5 LIV golf players right now, which is why his opinion matters so much. With that said, even though he wants the PGA Tour and LIV Golf to come together, it's not exactly gonna be simple. After all, the OWGR debate is arguably the biggest thing separating the two. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, basically, the official rankings body has refused to grant points to the league's players. Why? Well, you see, not only does LIV Golf have smaller fields and no cuts, but it's also got only 3 rounds rather than your usual 4. So, they don't exactly fit the OWGR's criteria. The Saudi League CEO Greg Norman, however, believes that the rankings body should just grant some sort of exemption to the league. After all, they've proven that they deserve to get ranking points. In fact, that's exactly what Bryson DeChambeau was talking about at Oak Hill, too. Because the fact that a player like Taylor Gooch can win 2 LIV events against major champions and still lose his official ranking is just bizarre. Not to mention, a lot of players could also lose their major invitations by dropping down the rankings. Although there has been growing resistance against the OWGR lately, with Norman suggesting that the sport could move on to other ranking systems, like the Data Golf rankings, which, according to him, are free from any bias. But it seems like the major championships could come up with another solution for this problem. In fact, Bryson DeChambeau says that they've already discussed potential workarounds. Yep, the scientist is at it again with his big revelations. And this time around, he claims that they've found a potential solution to the major championship problem. Speaking before the LIV Golf event in Washington, D.C., Bryson said that they've discussed a bunch of things over the past few weeks. The one that has stuck with everyone, though, is creating some sort of exemption category for LIV players based on how they played during the year. He talked about how this would be the most fair and opportune thing for the league's members. After all, their roster has some of the best golfers in the world, including major champions. What's more, he thinks that even if they do start earning OWGR points now, it's a bit too late since they've dropped way down the order, and there's not really a route back for them. Now, the fascinating thing about this concept would be the way these new points are weighed. Like, are LIV events going to be awarded the same points as something like, say, the Wells Fargo Championship? Especially considering the 54-hole tournaments in the Saudi League? Probably not. But even if they award 3/4 of a PGA Tour event, it's still a million times better than the current setup. So there you have it. From dropping hints about a new major route for breakaway league players, to claiming that LIV Golf now has better golfers than the PGA Tour, that was Bryson DeChambeau's massive LIV Golf bomb.